Oh, do you know the spell?
I do. Oh my God, this is so familiar. You know, from primary school in China, they got the bell in the beginning of the class and at the end of the class.
Yeah,
And that's exactly what we hear.
yeah. So I'm sure all Chinese students must be so familiar to the spell. You know it's time to go to class whenever he hears it.
Yeah, the one for the end of the class will be like, yay!
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember that always one or two students, and they just count the second, like 3, 2, 1, end of class!
It's the most exciting moment ever, I'm sure.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm Angel, and
I'm Kathy. Sorry, we haven't introduced ourselves. We thought it's episode 6 already, so you might already know us.
yeah.
If you knew, probably go back and listen to our trailer and then come back to us and click in one of the episodes. So, Ijo, what are we going to talk about in this episode?
So in this episode, we will cover the family relationship during 高考, and we'll also talk about 高考 itself.
Yeah.
And as we promised from last episode, we will talk about 户口.
Interesting.
And then 小区.
小区 might be a new idea for listeners who don't live in Asia.
Yeah, it's quite unique in Asian country because of the population or the rapid civilization.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to this episode because there are so many things in this episode that we can really talk about because we went through these things by ourselves.
Yes.
Or we see our friends going through these things. We know their pangs, or like we know their excitements. Like, yeah, we can feel them.
We know how much the homeworks are.
Yeah, like everything. So I think from the last episode, we talked about the little reunion and its plot. At this stage, we probably know that this drama talks about 高考. So, shall we give a little recap for the listener who didn't check out the last one?
Yeah, so basically we just talked about the 3 families and the 4 main characters in the drama.
So this drama talks about how 3 different types of family meets the challenge of 高考, and then how this 高考 really changed their family relationship, how they go through and overcome these family issues. And so moving on this episode, we want to talk about 高考.
So yeah, as we have already mentioned, that those 3 families are facing the situation of 高考. Do you know what exactly is 高考?
Personally, just like what I said in last episode, I didn't participate. But I know because my friend had them, and then I know it's the university entrance exam. It's the Chinese SAT.
Yeah.
And this could be like the most important lifetime experience for thousands of hundreds of Chinese people. You and me, we didn't go through this. Otherwise, I think I'll be so frustrated. I don't think I will do so well.
You just have no life on study every day.
I think so. Yeah.
Last 1 year.
If you want to know the data, and this year there were actually 10 million students registered in this year's 高考. So
10 million?
Yeah.
Oh my
it's
God.
Like, I think last year it was like 7 million, and then this year's 10 millions. It also has something to do with the COVID. Because of the COVID, the 高考 was postponed for a month. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
This year, it comes to a peak. And one thing is because of the COVID. So because the 高考 was postponed for a month, and then that obviously benefits some students. And students who didn't pass last year and come back to do it this year.
It
Yeah.
means more competition between students.
Yeah, definitely. But I think even though there are more students registering to Gaokao, but also there are more universities coming up. The number of universities are rising up as well.
That's a good thing.
So yeah, even though it's so much more competitive to get into the good university, like the good ones.
In Chinese parents' eyes, there's only good universities and nothing.
Yeah, I think so.
So you either go to a top university like 211 or 985.
Yeah, 211 or 985. I think we should talk about this later. Explain what does 211 and 985.
Yeah, so there's a number like 211. It's like 211 universities,
Yeah,
like top.
you either get into those unis or you get nothing.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're interested in the data or if someone's interested in the data, I've actually done a little bit of research that last year there were actually about around 81% of students who were accepted into tertiary education. 81%, that's big. That's quite a lot. With only around 18% of registered students being accepted into Tier 1 university. So that's like 211 and 985 that you talked about.
Oh, that's a big contrast.
Yeah, so there are about 3 tiers of universities, and each tier represents the prestige of the universities. It's like, for example, Peking and Tsinghua are in Taiwan, and some of the local universities, like in, for example, in Hainan or in Xinjiang or in Canton, some of the local ones could be in like Tier 3 or Tier 2. Normally, when we talk about 211 and 985, they are mostly in Tier 1.
Yeah, I got what you mean.
Yeah.
Like the Shanghai Transportation University. Do you feel that?
Shanghai Jiaoda. Of course, that's Tier 1. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, only few of them can get into good universities, and most of them are just in a like relatively average or even average below universities.
Yeah.
If I go through Gaokao, oh, I'm sure I feel like I'll be in Tier 3 because it's just so competitive.
I don't think there's Tier 3 anymore.
Oh yeah.
It's only like 1, 2, and
I think from my understanding it's like in technical term there's no Tier 3, but there are actually so many private universities out there, and then they don't name themselves, like they don't put themselves into one of the tier, but they are just some kind of universities and people know they are the Tier 3.
Yeah, now they call it Tier 2B.
Ah, didn't know that. And yeah, there are just so many private unis that gives you amazing facilities, and your campus looks so big, like Harvard University or like even like Cambridge University, but they don't actually provide you very good learning resources.
So all the Chinese parents want their children go to the first tier university. So
Yeah. Song Qian, of course. If Yingzi ever dropped into a Tier 2, oh, I don't think Song Qian will talk to Yingzi anymore.
Song Qian will explore.
Song Qian will have Yingzi to study again and then redo the Gaokao.
And actually lots of students, if they didn't do well in this year or last year's Gaokao, actually many of them choose to redo it next year.
Yeah, my friend did it. Like in her first year of Gaokao, she didn't do very well. And then in her second time, like she just went to a school that shuts all your connection to the outside world.
Wow.
She didn't have a phone. And then I think she has to wake up 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. and then going out, do morning exercises. And then after morning exercises, there's like morning study session. And then there are classes, like, I don't know, probably 4 classes a day, and then you have lunch, and then 4 classes again, then night study session, and then she just lives in the dorm, all other friends who are doing this together.
So this kind of school is do all the things just for you to focus on your study.
Exactly. It's very like military style management.
Yeah.
So very, very intense. Luckily, after that, she got into a Tier 2 university and she's becoming a teacher right now. So I'm really happy for her.
Wow, that's not bad actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like even get into a Tier 2, you still can have a proper job.
It doesn't sound good
Yeah. It's just doesn't sound good when your parents talks about you.
to others,
You know,
especially
you know,
relatives and friends.
exactly. Like when the parents sits together, they always talk about my children. Like my mom will say, "Oh, Kathy, she's doing da 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 da," and then my sister, she's doing da da da, and the other ones like, "Oh, you know, my child, she goes to Harvard, or my child, she works at a
Google.
bank." Yeah, for example, Google, that kind of stuff. And then there are like this comparisons between Asian parents.
Yeah.
So I really don't like that.
I know.
You get into Tier 1 just for the sake of your mom can be really proud of you.
Well, it's like compared to others, they either
Mm.
look down you
Mhm.
or your mom look down others to fulfill her self-esteem. I don't really like it. Either way, it's not.
And to make other parents jealous.
Yeah.
So I'm sure in every country they have their own system of 高考. Ija, do you mind to explain to us what's Chinese 高考like? Like how is it structured and how many subjects there are?
Okay. They have to learn mathematics, Chinese, mostly Chinese literacy, and English.
There were actually other languages, like apparently you can study
Japanese.
German, Japanese, but most students choose English.
Yeah, and then you can choose either politics, history, and geography if you are an art student, or if you are a science student, you can choose physics, chemistry, and biology. For science students, their mathematics examination will be way harder than the art students.
Yeah, one thing they do really well is like they design for two different types of students, but most students choose to do science rather than arts.
It's like 50-50.
Oh, really? Because I know from my friend, the friend who went through Gaokao for twice, she said in her year there were about like 14 classes, and then 12 of them are science classes.
Wow.
Like they do the science things, and then only 2 classes are made up by the art students.
Maybe just because in China the arts part is more about memorization and understanding.
Yeah.
And there will be lots of writing for the 高考 and preparation.
Yeah. So for science, it's like it's more useful, and then everyone thinks that not just Asian, but you know, Caucasians also think that science can brings you a well-paid job.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Depending on your talents.
Yeah.
And then even though we thought the Gaokao is quite standardized, it is actually not, right?
Well,
it's not like all SAT students will have the same exam sheets.
Yeah, but it depends on which part of China
you are. Yeah. Largely depending on that. So to ease out the regional education inequality, some provinces will use different exam papers, will have different acceptance requirement. Like in Beijing, going to a Taiwan university could be 450, and then in other provinces that could be 475. That's like your Gaokao score.
Yeah, but I think what is standardized is that it's quite equal inside the province. If we both from Shanghai, and there will be equal competition.
Different provinces will actually have different exam sheets, right?
Because they have different education level.
Like by that means like Shanghai, good teachers want to go to Shanghai, so their education resources are relatively higher than some of the poor provinces like Henan. It's kind of like rather undeveloped, or like Gansu. That's also kind of undeveloped. So because of like the inequality in education resources, so some students will have harder questions and some students might have easier ones. That's also kind of because of the number of universities in your provinces. So like Xinjiang and Tibet, they have less universities, so their acceptance rate is like relatively
lower,
and then lower than the provinces who have
more universities in their city.
They have so many students but not many universities. So it's like when you have supply over demand, this is when you have a high price level. I'm talking about economics right now. So this is when your supply drops. Yeah. So your price goes down.
Yeah. Good explanation.
Thank you, incorporating the economics knowledge. So I thought this is like quite interesting how the central government trying to standardize, comparing the economics, the education resources, their number of students, all sorts of stuff.
However, because Gaokao is so hard, lots of people try everything to get a good resource and try to participate in the exam in a lower grade city.
Yeah. It's just like Layar's case. Layar coming from a city who everyone is doing so well, like they prepare the Gaokao with harder questions. And suddenly he comes to Beijing and everything just seems so easy. It's just like when a Asian studying in China and then suddenly he goes to overseas and then finding out all the math questions in other countries looks so easy. It's just like 1 + 1.
Well, probably.
It's like when this Chinese boy in China doing like algebra, suddenly he goes to overseas and they're doing 1 + 1. It's that kind of feeling.
Are we really using this as an example?
Oh yeah, I'm being exaggerated, but that's like
Yeah, but you got the idea. So the only thing that Layar can take the examination in Beijing is because his 户口 is in Beijing.
Yeah, now we're coming to this 户口 thingy. Do you mind to explain what 户口 is?
So the proper name for 户口 is household registration system. It requires everyone to register their basic demographic information on their 户口.
Due to the nature of my job, I get a sense of how important 户口 is. It is important because I work in the human resource department. It is so important for me to check the person's name, ID number, gender, date of birth, and it's also important to check whether this person have a rural 户口 or a urban 户口, and then this person's permanent address, and this will change how much social welfare you benefit from.
Yeah, so 户口 is quite different from identity card.
Yeah.
So what's the difference, Cassie?
Between
户口
and
identity card?
They're kind of related. I think 户口just shows that where your permanent address is, and then how many people is on your 户口. That being said, is like who are your family members and how many are there.
Yeah, so family related.
Yeah, whereas your identity card, like your ID card, just shows your information, like an individual's information. Yeah, but whenever you go to a big company, you go for your employment or for your marriage or like everything, you often need both of them, like your 户口 and your ID card.
It's a unique thing in China. If a marriage, they check each other's 户口, like which city you're from. Like if your partner is from a big city, and then maybe people will think you are taking advantage from your partner because he's from a big city. It's quite tricky.
Exactly. And then they will do some work to make sure you two are on the same 户口 page.
Yeah, so when you get married, you need to get your page in the 户口
Mhm.
to your new family.
Yeah.
You were in the same 户口 with your mom and dad before you get married. And
Yeah.
after you get married, you have a new 户口 with your partner.
Yeah, that's how it works. And the role of 户口, it's like kind of more obvious and more crucial in the huge cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen. There are like certain restrictions on buying houses or vehicles in those cities based on your 户口.
Yeah.
It's like the central government wants to avoid some kind of problems of overpopulations, for example, or like lack of labor in the rural cities, or and then 户口 is probably like the best thing to achieve these goals. It's a very, very useful tool to control population, I would say.
Yeah. So in terms of 高考, students have to take their exams of where their 户口 is located. Like, if my 户口 is in Beijing, but I live in Shanghai for my whole life,
But
I
you
still
still
need
need to
take the exams in Beijing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a bit unfair. It's like if I live in Mexico for my life, but my 户口 it's in America, I still need to go back to America to take my exam. They should be smarter in that. So and then in this drama, Lei is quite fortunate to have his 户口 located in Beijing, and where it has a higher acceptance rate. So more people can go into university.
So for Lair himself, his knowledge is way more than what he needs to know in the Beijing 高考.
Yeah,
For
he's
him.
so confident in getting into Tsinghua or Peking University since he's taking his exam in Beijing. Or otherwise, I don't think he's even close to it.
Yeah, nah. I thought he is from a city that have a big population, which means it's quite competitive between students.
Yeah, so it is like somehow quite controversial after these years.
And you know how important is this for Lair?
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about 1分1操场?
I think we talked about this in our last episode. I think I said that Ying's mom has this strong sense of idea that if Ying's lose 1 point, and thousands of people will surpass her. Everyone is in a great danger if they lose just by 1 point.
Yeah, it's like if you get 1 more point in 高考,
your rank will go up by a lot.
By 1,000.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So 1 point means a playground full of people.
These are like the threats from your mom,
teachers,
and your teachers. Yeah. All right. Let's come back. So we kind of like talked about 户口, and then there were so many things that we could also continue. And then 户口, it is quite controversial also because there are so many groups that are eligible for special concessions. So this includes minor ethnic groups, includes like the Uyghurs, the Manchus. Yeah, exactly. Foreign students are not ethnic groups, but they are eligible for special concessions. And or like the children of military casualties are also eligible. Or even Taiwanese students, they can come to mainland China and then get bonus points in their 高考.
Hong Kongese
as well, yeah.
Students from Macau.
Yeah. So normally they would get around 5 to 10 points. Depending on their groups, like whether you're a foreign student or you're ethnic groups.
Yeah, so that means 5 playgrounds full of people.
5 playgrounds. Oh, huge. That's a huge thing.
10,000.
So yeah, if you're interested in more of the debates over 户口 and how 户口 gives you bonus points, like feel free to like Google them up. There's so many things about that. And then beyond that, and some students could have like a different path of going through 高考.
to move your 户口 to another city.
Yeah. So you can do that, like moving to Xinjiang, it's so easy these days. But once you move into Xinjiang, it's hard or like almost impossible to move your 户口 again out of Xinjiang.
I think you got a temporary 户口 when you go to uni. Like your 户口 will be the place where your university is placed.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So where you go to uni is actually really, really important.
Yeah.
No wonder everyone want to go to Beijing.
Big cities.
I didn't know that.
So when you go to uni, you got a temporary 户口. So if you work in the same city when you graduate, then your 户口 will be there.
Yeah, so that's like a golden key for securing your place and securing a family place in big cities.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to leading you up there is like, you know, students who study fine arts or music, they actually get a different types of 高考.
Yeah, level is way lower.
Yeah, their 高考 have two different parts. So one is written test, that's the 高考 we normally talk about. And the other part is assess your skills in your music or in your arts, like assess your music skill or art skills. If you want to go to a art school, you can do an arts test, and then your written test weigh less in your 高考.
Yeah, because you spend more time in your art skills.
Yeah. But preparing for 高考, there are so many things. Some parents prepare for your 高考 ever since you go to primary school.
That early?
Yeah, by preparing, going to a good primary school, going to a good intermediate, good high school, and then it helps you preparing for your 高考.
Right. So they can buy a house.
Yeah. So many of my friends did that. They buy a house near one of the good schools in the cities that gives you a place in that school, and then it suddenly gives you a higher chance of going to a good university.
Yeah, those primary school with high quality educations will have a really, really expensive area of 小区.
小区. What's the English name for 小区?
So 小区 is the residential unit or residential quarters.
Right.
So if you don't know the idea, just think of an apartment.
Yeah.
I think
小区 is not apartments.
Yeah, it's quite different. So other than your 户口 to determine where you study and where your learning privileges are, the education is also getting more specialized. We all know the idea of school zones.
Oh.
Do you think they get it in Western cities? Western countries?
Yeah, definitely. Like in America, in Australia, the idea of school zones are actually quite popular.
In order to take their kids to enter the good kindergartens or good primary school or middle school.
Like these three schools actually prepares you for 高考.
Yeah, like it's the way to succeed.
Yeah. There are three ways for parents to do so, like to get into good kinders, primaries, and middle school. Like first one, of course, is to depending on your child. Like your child needs to get good marks.
If they're smart.
If they're
it's
smart,
not hard.
It's not hard. I wish it's not hard. Well, yeah, from kinder to primary and from primary to middle, not hard. From your middle school going to university, that's very hard.
Middle school to high school is also
middle school to high school, that's very hard. Or you can go to these good schools or kinders through bribery. So many people do that.
So many
people.
It's quite normal in China right now. It might not be that common in other countries, but definitely, like if the parents get the money, they will take you to the bribery.
Yeah, and if you have connections, you can do so many works under the table to get your child into that school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know some people do that. It's like through them, I know there are tons of people doing that.
Bribery. They just take care of you, like everything, but it's super expensive.
Super expensive, of course. You're paying much more than what other students are paying to get your kids into that school.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just crazy. Like, it's a crazy amount. I don't even think about that.
True.
Yeah.
And the third one, if you're super rich, you can buy a property.
Yeah, that's located near the schools. So it grants your child a place to study. So either bribery or buying a property, it really capitalizes education.
Yeah, only for those who can afford it.
Yeah. So in the housing market, even though the housing market are sometimes quite bubbly, the property within the school zone will not be impacted.
The property in the 苏洞小区
their house price just like go up each year.
Yeah.
There's no signs of coming down.
Yeah, everyone just wants to buy a house for their kids and get good education. Yeah, just crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't change during the recessions or anything. So I'm sure this happens in other countries as well, like in the States or in
Japan.
in UK, in Japan, Korea, all other countries.
Yeah.
But the differences between Chinese people and the American people is that most Chinese people live in apartments. And then that the apartments, like about like 10 apartments, forms a 小区, or you call it a residential unit, residential quarters, or like a community.
It's more like a district community.
Yeah. Unlike the Americans who live in independent houses, Chinese communities are hugely depending on 小区. Like, you know your neighbors very well because you can see each other every morning you go out.
Oh, in some 小区.
Yeah, and then like during the lockdown, the idea of 小区 was very handy in controlling people outflow and inflow. All the 小区 were shut.
They got security guys walking around.
Yeah. All the 小区 were shut because during the COVID.
Yeah. You know how lots of misunderstanding of 小区, but actually 小区 is quite normal. Just like you live in an apartment with lots of more other apartments.
Yeah.
And you got your own community.
Yeah.
Security guy is not to spying on you, but to make sure the residents in the 小区 is safe.
Yeah. So during the COVID, like all 小区 were shut. And then we couldn't go out, like, or we can go out once in 2 days. And then they sell stuff outside of 小区 gates, and then they throw stuff into the 小区, and then we pay them through WeChat. We don't have a shop inside our 小区, so like the people working at the shops outside, they just throw stuff into our 小区, and then we just pay it through WeChat Pay. Like, we don't touch each other. So the idea of 小区 can like really efficiently restrain the spread of virus. And then if one of the 小区 has like a single positive case, shutting down the 小区 can effectively just, retain the virus to be within the 小区, like shut your apartment.
My 小区, we got supermarket and we got restaurants and we also got gymnasia. The residents in the 小区 still can walk around in the 小区. Yeah,
they can walk around in the 小区, but they can't go out.
Yeah, so the virus only spread between the people who lives in the 小区. If there's
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think we kind of finished what we should talk about in this episode. Like, we've talked about 高考 structures, 高考 controversy, 户口, how 户口 is quite controversial as well, and 小区, that's the residential quarters. So, Ijo, what flavor is this 2 weeks popsicle?
I would say sea cucumber. Qian always
That's
force
like a
Yingzi
very
to eat a steamed sea cucumber every morning for her
so
高考.
yeah. So sea cucumber apparently it's something good for your brain, makes you smarter.
High nutrition.
Yeah, we should all order some sea cucumbers tomorrow.
Yuck.
Yuck! Exactly. Ooh, ooh.
It tastes
It
like
tastes like
rubber.
I probably had it before, but I just forgot the flavor. It's actually a good time for Chinese people to have crabs right now. It's in
Yeah. The mid-autumn
yeah,
as well, yeah.
mid-autumn. Actually, the 1st of October is actually our mid-autumn festival.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is the national day.
Well, you're Chinese. Well, yes, they're on the same day this year.
Oh, coincidence.
Yeah. So everyone, if you don't know that, yesterday is Mid-Autumn Festival, and so go to Chinese supermarkets and get some mooncakes. This year there's that ice cream mooncakes that become really trendy. Like we wish everyone have a good Mid-Autumn Festival, and we'll see you guys in our next one.
Okay, end of class.
Bye.
Bye.